talking with Hardik. Now, he's a filmmaker behind a documentary that's in competition at a festival in London called Fuck It's Over. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
And thank you for making the effort to join us. It is always the same first question, obvious one. I've seen it, but for the benefit of those that haven't, can you give us an idea what this film's about?
Well, it has a strange title, Fuck It's Over, but when you watch the film you realise what it's about, because it's about two things, really. It's the life of Henrietta Sophia Wallace Dunlop as she refers back to how she was brought up in Soho, and also the demise of what we see around us in our culture in regards to Soho.
It's the change.
It's the change, and everything changes, and in reference to the change that's happening in Soho. And if you go there, you really see it, because all you hear is building works going on, whole blocks being torn down because of Crossrail and everything else. And because Sophia's actually was brought up there at a very strange age, when it was a very seedy place, but it was full of artists and musicians and everything else, she sees it kind of like in relation in the film with the death of her father, who she was very close to. And you kind of like in the film you see the love of her father and the love of Soho intertwined, and she's struggling to make sense of all that. But it's not just a documentary about Soho. When you watch it, it's a documentary as well about the people who've lived there, and in this case the artist Henrietta Sophia Wallace Dunlop, who's had to struggle with her personal demons to come and basically try and fight to retain it. And I don't know if it's a battle that anyone can win.
Actually, and on that point, a stat that was said to me the other day, which was remarkable, is apparently right now in London, I suppose Greater London, there is 500 applications for flats to be built, blocks of flats. It's quite incredible. And I think we should point out that, and this is my opinion, it is a positive to say, this isn't about NIMBYism at all.
No.
It is actually quite a profound and relevant subject matter to talk about, because we all understand change, but this is not necessarily change for the better, as will be revealed in the film.
Yeah, because for example, right in the heart of Soho, you've got the Soho Market. And that was, while we were filming, under threat of being taken away completely while they built residential flats, and all the shops that used to be there were all going to be demolished. That was the heart of Soho. That market actually fed the community there, but also provided food and other stuff to all the hotels and the restaurants there. So it's the heart of it. And when you get rid of something like that in a community, it can really suffer. So it's more than just let's stick onto the buildings.
Yeah, it's the whole culture thing.
It's the whole culture. And also, if you go to Soho now, you know, you won't find as many artists, as many musicians anymore, because you're surrounded by pret-a-manger's and wasabis.
Yeah, and Cafe Nero's.
And Cafe Nero's. So it's a real shame, and I think it relates all across the world, because I think in big cities, that kind of like culture, that little hub of culture that people used to have, where artists used to go to work, meet other artists and be creative, is being diminished throughout the world, whether it be San Francisco, New York, you know, Tokyo, anywhere.
And would it be fair to say, I mean, I've seen where I live, and it's completely random, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Part of the problem is a lot of this stretches back to there should be more support from our local council and say, well, hang on a minute, we've got this here, we know we've been offered a shed load of money to do this, but we really need to think about this, because we're going to lose so much. And frankly, your high street, it could be in Brixton, it could be where I live near Margate, it could be Canterbury, whatever, they're all kind of looking clones, aren't they?
They're looking very much clones, and the thing is, in this film we're talking about Soho, which is world famous because it's got so much history. There were so many writers, playwrights, very famous people who went there. But it relates also to your high street, because, as you say, you're in Margate. In my high street, we've had high street stores being knocked down, and what we're seeing is just residential flats being built, which is great because hopefully everyone needs a house. But what you end up doing is, if they can afford it, but what you end up doing is you end up removing places for people to go. And actually do something, because you can't just do everything online, you can't just shop everything online, and it's really hard to actually, you can talk to people online and you can talk to other artists, but it's a big difference between meeting them, sharing ideas. You know, it's like when the artists got together in Montmartre in Paris, you know, and the Impressionist movement started. I don't know if it would have started unless all those artists were exchanging ideas and looking at each other's work and working out where to go with it. And at the moment, all we have is the internet to help us. But unfortunately, those little hubs are being demolished. But what I didn't want to do, because I could have easily just done, look at Soho and look at it all changing. I wanted to see it through somebody who lived there, who was expressing themselves as an artist themselves, but also had personal stories, closure, demons to kind of like get over, which was in line with the battle they were fighting to save the Soho they knew.
And of course they, without sounding ageist here, they would have had to have been around long enough to know what it was like 20 or 30 years
They were, and in Sophia's case, she was only, I think, 11 years old when basically she got expelled out of school for drinking rum. Her father used to buy her drugs at that age, taking them to school and saying, if you're going to buy drugs, buy them off me. I mean, what kind of father was this? And then he invited her to Soho because she didn't have anywhere else to live, and she was brought up just surrounded by drug dealers, prostitutes, but artists and everything else. But what she learnt to do was become self-sufficient in herself, but also appreciate that those type of hubs, or what people might look at, oh my God, this is a bit of a seedy place, are actually places whereby creativity and writing, art and everything else that we all like now, you need those places to help create something like that. And I don't know where they're going to come from now.
No, I don't. So I'm assuming that you approach story rather than the story approaching you. You were tuned into it. How did this all come about?
Well, the thing is, it's only because I've been in London all my life, and I used to go to Soho and visit there. I used to go and buy concert tickets there. I used to study just around the corner, and I've seen it change. And I accidentally met Sophia through my work because we did a call out because we were making a film on, have you ever thrown everything away and just gone off and done something crazy? She replied back, what she said wasn't good enough for my film, but I had a link to her work. And then I started reading about her, and I saw her work, and I realised that there was a big backstory here about her love for Soho and her family, because her dad was kind of like a famous character of Soho. Everyone knew him. He was hanging around with famous people. He was an incredibly clever man. He used to know Lord Lucan and everything else.
Oh, okay.
So it was
Lucky Lucan.
Lucky Lucan, yes. So she comes from high aristocracy. But then when you realise all of this, and she lives in Soho in a seedy place, it just became an interesting story to tell.
How much of it did you cut? Because I imagine you probably had hours and hours and hours.
I shot it over 6 days,
right,
plus 2 pickup days, whereby we had to go to where she was setting up an exhibition.
Yeah.
It took, because I had to do everything in my free time. I've got a day job working in television, and it took me about a year and a bit to cut with my editor Tracy, who's a great editor, by the way, and gives lots of her free time just for the love of it.
So how much did you discard? Would you suggest?
Oh, our first cut was about 2 hours 50 minutes long.
So that's got to go. Obviously,
yeah, that's got to go. But that was our first cut. That was, never mind, because I was shooting a lot. Just because you never know when you're doing this, like when you're walking around the streets, you never know when something might happen.
Yeah, shoot more than you need.
That's the thing, isn't it? And some things, certain things did happen. Just outside Roddy Scott's, you expect to be treated well, and the guy just came out and just said, "Get off our things." And you kind of think that sums it up, really, because that sums up the friendliness of Soho's gone.
Yeah.
She makes a highlight. She goes, before we'd have been invited in saying, we've got so and so coming on. Do you want a drink or whatever? But she knew everybody, and people were quite friendly in those days, even though it was a little bit seedy. But now everyone's kind of like, what are you doing here? What are you filming here? And it's all become very corporation. That's all you see in Soho these days. Just corporation.
I worry. Sorry to interrupt you, but I kind of think. And I totally applaud what you're doing, it's right to highlight this, but like so many things that have happened in the modern age, whether it's transport, culture, the way we eat now, the way we shop, to kind of past that tipping point, which is a concern. I think, would you say that applies?
I think we have passed the tipping point, which is, in a weird way, why the film's called what it is.
Yeah.
Because you kind of think, no matter what we do, and you can hold on to art, you can hold on to your love for music and everything else, but there's certain time periods in time which you come to realise you just can't hold on to, and what you need to do is try and grab what was best about them and see if you can pass that on, rather than trying to stick and hold on to the actual place itself, because the place is changing, and in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, it won't be recognisable for what it was.
No, and I suppose all those great characters, because you're kind of, if you forgive me for saying this, at the point now where, unless you get it now, you're going to be screwed, aren't you? Because you won't be able to build a film because
I don't want to go through the list of people there, but Oscar Wilde used to write there. You know, Adele did her first concert there. Elton John wrote Your Song on top of a flat there. It's just, it's full of history, and there were so many famous artists there, and it's all gone. There's hardly anything there except for.
And who do you? I'm sure you explore this in the documentary, but who do you? Is there an answer to this? There isn't really, is there? It's too late, I guess.
It's sad, but as I said, when you watch the documentary, it's more of a journey of this artist and finding out about her life, and then you see the predicament that sometimes what her life has in relation to Soho. Because I could have easily just done lots of talking heads and talked to people about the problem in Soho. I didn't want to do that. I also made the decision that the only voice you hear is hers in the film. That's quite difficult to do for 1 hour.
God.
And you don't really hear, there's no voiceover, there's no kind of like
her,
standard storytelling that you would do television. It's just her, and I was really worried whether it would be compelling enough, but the feedback that I get there, once you get hooked into the character, you watch it, and you just want to see where she goes and what happens.
And what about this, I mean, I know you know the area very well, and you know her, but even so, I'm guessing there's still a whole tranche of research you need to do to make this film.
We did. I mean, the archive, because lots of people she was forgetting, who was this, who was that, and it was getting her to. She's got photographs everywhere, and it's the photographs that help make the documentary, because then you can see how she was living in Soho, and also acquiring certain pictures from archive sources which we paid for, just to show which kind of like people used to be there and the type of people her father used to associate with. But we did nighttime filming as well, and I shot lots of artistic shots just to give an idea of what Soho was like at that time.
And I know I know obviously what you do in your day job, but it is the ultimate aim, because obviously you're a filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know, is that the ultimate end to where you want to be in terms of? I assume you'd want to do this to be your livelihood, your life.
Well, the thing is, it's fun enough, it is my livelihood, but I originally wanted to be in drama, and I only just a few years back we made a short film which is 40 minutes long, and we thought, God, that's too long, and we ended up winning over 45 awards around the world in film festivals, which was great for that. And I'm currently just editing a feature film that we've made, a drama.
What, it's a narrative, yeah?
Yeah, a narrative. It's called The First Man. It's written by a very famous playwright, Eugene O'Neill, and we're making the first ever film on that play.
What, it's never been done before?
Never been done before.
I thought everything Eugene O'Neill
No, never been done before. It was only performed for the first time in this country 2 years ago, which is where we got the idea from.
Right, so how did you manage to snap that up?
Basically, you can snap it up because it was written before 1922, so it's copyright free.
Right, okay. So trawling through the archives, I'm still shocked that no one's done it.
Yeah. So we made it. We're just editing it. Hopefully, it will be out in about June or July. But the good thing is, we shot it for hardly any money. It's real
tick.
No, hard tick. We shot it within 4 days. It's like insane.
What, feature?
Yes. It's got about 16 actors in it.
Yeah.
It's a period drama. So we had to get all the costumes. We had to get an extravagant location.
Oh, so, hang on, how did you manage to get all that very low? Because let's be honest, costume dramas are
basically, I just know lots of people who do me favours.
The job, I guess you had to probably helps. Yeah.
Yes, it helps a lot. We shot it in 4 days, but we shot it in a way that it looks like a film and it doesn't look cheap. So we shot it multi-camera, and we planned all my shots for each scene well beforehand. So
you are storyboarding this. I mean, it was all storyboarding.
What you can't do is storyboard, but what you can do, you can plan where your cameras might be for coverage from different angles. So if you know that the drama's unfolding in front of you, you've got a good chance of picking up everything you need.
Because you already got the camera.
And you're using different lenses, so it'll look filmic. So it won't look like TV with the big wides and everything else. You've planned it all, and it took us 4 days to keep bashing it through, but from the results we've got so far, fingers crossed, we'll be able to sell it, and it will get some good screening somewhere.
And I mean, that's always the $64,000 question, because you make a film like this, obviously, and it's finding a way to get it to market is the hard push. But you know, these things. Again, I'm sure you have a game plan for doing that.
Well, the thing is, for this film, with the documentary Fuck It's Over, I don't know where the game plan is apart from film festivals, because it's very hard to sell. It's very niche, very hard to sell documentaries. But with the feature, because it's a Eugene O'Neill play, and there's big Eugene O'Neill fans all over the world. Plus, you know, he's had his face on stamps. He's won the Nobel Prize, etc. I think it's got a market when competing with the 150th zombie film for that year. You know, there's not that many period dramas being made. So when you suddenly turn up with one, it's too expensive. So when you turn up with one and you've got a big cast and it's an established author, I think that helps you get your foot through the door.
Yeah, and I think the Americans love the period.
They love Eugene O'Neill. They regard him as one of their best playwrights, if not the best.
And when is that due to come? What's the
June or July? That's what I'm aiming for. There's a lot of post-production of cleaning up and music and everything else to do, but we're near to finishing the cut.
And I ask this question to filmmakers often, which is about the editing process, because I always think that's one of the most difficult things, because you shot it, and it doesn't matter whether it's a documentary or narrative. There's going to be times you're desperate to keep someone in, but you get an independent eye, nothing to do with the film, they'll cut the film.
Oh, yes.
How difficult. It's tough, isn't it?
It's really tough. It's tough to argue what can go in, and sometimes you want something to work, so you'll really force it in because you know you spent time on that shot, or you can't like think it adds to the film having a few more characters here. So you've got to fight those battles. But lots of the time when you're shooting documentaries as well, you're constantly chucking people out because you have to follow a narrative, and if something takes you away from the main theme, you kind of like becomes redundant. So, and you don't want to stop. You know, show people lots of little redundant alleyways. You want to keep them going with this main theme of whatever your film is. So you always end up losing in documentaries, perhaps interview characters or shots that you wanted to keep.
And in your opinion, are editors generally right?
Well, editors, I work with the editors, and to be honest, I'm very hands-on in the edit. I don't hand off my film because I will argue over frames.
Right.
Only because I've been in the edit hundreds and hundreds of times for hundreds of films.
Yes.
And I learned editing on a Steinbeck, you know, before the days of.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Well, you say it wasn't that long ago. I was only in the year 2000.
No, was it really?
Yeah, when I was at film school in the year 2000, I was editing on Steinbecks. So that
it seems like it was in the 90s. I just it really didn't really.
No, things have changed so fast. We only went HD in around 2009.
Yeah, and they're now still talking about 4K broadcast. I was reading this is me going a piece. Apparently, the World Cup is going to be, if you happen to live in Japan or South Korea, 8K. Is that the next one or 6K?
I don't think how our human eye can even tell the difference between.
Yeah. I mean, I can see with 4K and HDI, to be fair, if it's done well.
I can't see between 4K and 8K.
No,
you
I can't see how that's going to work.
To be honest, I find it difficult between 2K and 4K sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, because it depends on what the picture you're looking at and how much detail it actually needs.
And I suppose the problem is it might be obviously less so for Skies and the Netflix, but with terrestrial broadcasting, changing the equipment around to support 4K is not cheap.
And it's not going to happen, I don't think, in the very near future.
No, it's too much of an investment, I think.
Too much. I mean, there's still channels on Freeview HD which aren't even HD yet.
No, I know, you can spot that as well.
Channel 5 only went HD 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And they were quite against us in America, and then all of a sudden the switch came on. Hardy, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great being here at the festival.
And I knew you'd be brilliant too, so thank you. Really appreciate it. And there you go.